more amendments regarding gender-affirming care, trannies, you name it. Castration is not a mistake, by the way. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle want to say that castration is health care, and there's nothing more dehumanizing than going after the trannies out there. One recently shot 2 young school children in Minnesota. It is a mental illness, and it needs to stop, and we can stop it in our military right now. So this amendment, in last year's NDAA, we took the important step of banning TRICARE from covering medical interventions to treat gender dysphoria, which would result in the sterilization of children.
I would just like to point out that I think it's very interesting that my colleague from South Carolina is so obsessed with the issue of trans people, using horrible slurs to talk about them, when many people in this body have received gender-affirming care. Filler is gender-affirming care. Boob jobs is gender-affirming care. Botox is gender-affirming care. Lots of my colleagues have received gender-affirming care, and let me be clear, I think everyone should have access to the gender-affirming care that they need, and I think we should respect everybody in this country. With that, I yield back.
Ridiculous. You are absolutely ridiculous.
Lady is not recognized. Order. The House will be in order. The gentlelady and the gentleman will suspend. The House will be in order. The gentlelady is not recognized. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentlewoman from South Carolina. The House will be in order.
The purpose of our military is to fight and to win wars. It is to create war fighters, killers, not to participate in the latest progressive fad. Under the Biden administration, we diverted money away from readiness and lethality to promote extreme gender ideology and fund sex changes in our military. Under the Trump administration, we have finally recognized gender dysphoria for what it is, a mental illness which precludes military service. Our armed services are not a laboratory to study the effects of irreversible surgeries or hormones. Our service does not exist to provide experimental treatments to those whose conditions should be disqualifying. These people are mentally ill and should not be serving in the United States military. This amendment says clearly the purpose of our military is to defend the United States, not validate identity politics. It makes sure TRICARE serves the mission of protecting health, not undermining it. And I urge my colleagues to support this amendment, and I yield back, or reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlelady reserves. What person? The gentleman from Washington State seek recognition.
Claim the time in opposition.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. I yield myself 1 minute.
The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
First of all, I want to thank the maker of this amendment for making it clear what the problem is: trannies, mentally ill, insulting transgender people. This is exactly what these amendments are about. It's about a right-wing culture war to try to target the transgender community and make them something less than human. And if you listen to those comments, you get a feel for why that's a problem. Number two, this amendment doesn't have anything to do with transgender people serving in the military. Now, President Trump has already implemented that bigoted discriminatory policy to drive them out of the military. This is about health care for children experiencing gender dysphoria. And what this amendment does is it bans that health care treatment for children experiencing gender dysphoria. I've made a series of arguments on the other amendment about why that is such a bad idea. But the bottom line is this is a legitimate problem. And the studies have often shown that this is beneficial treatment that is now being denied by the United States Congress. This is something that doctors and patients should decide. You know, if we wanted to offer an amendment saying, please look at this issue, here's some studies on one side or the other, ask the medical community to reach their conclusions, that's one thing. But banning it doesn't make sense. I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentlelady from South Carolina.
Mr. Chair, how much time is remaining?
2 minutes remaining.
Okay, thank you. If not wanting to castrate kids is right-wing culture war, sign me up, because this is not the kind of thing that should be happening to children or military dependents anywhere in our country. And castrating kids, it's not health care either. We're talking about something very permanent. We don't allow our kids to be tattooed until they're adults. We don't allow them to drink or smoke or vote until they're adults. But you're saying that it's okay to castrate a kid because of this weirdo freak ideology. Yes, these are weirdos, these are freaks, these are people who are mentally deranged, mentally ill, and this should not be funded by American taxpayers. Thank you, and I yield the balance of my time.
Gentlelady yields the balance of her time. Gentleman from Washington State is recognized.
Current law bans sterilization. So that's just a lot of crap about what this is about. Current law bans what she's talking about. What is being banned here is any treatment for gender dysphoria, and that is completely wrong. With that, I yield 2 minutes to the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Jacobs.
The gentlelady from California is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Ranking Member. So as you all know, President Trump has already kicked out transgender troops from the military, despite the fact that they are willing and able to serve, and despite the fact that it will cost billions of dollars and decades to recruit and train their replacements. So this proposed ban on medical care is unnecessary and redundant for our service members because we know the goal here isn't actually about policy. It's a symbolic punishment. It's to send a false political message that trans healthcare is illegitimate, even though those of us who live in reality know that trans healthcare is safe, effective, and medically necessary. It is supported by every major medical association in the US, representing more than 1.3 million US doctors. And let's be clear by what we mean about gender-affirming care. We don't only mean surgery. Sometimes it's just using the correct pronouns. Sometimes it's mental health care, sometimes it's hormone therapy, and yes, sometimes it's surgery. This ban would also take away mental health care from the trans children of our service members. We know that trans youth face significant mental health challenges, not because they're trans, to be clear, but because of the external factors they face like social isolation, discrimination, lack of affirmation, the stress of not getting the care they need, having to hear colleagues of mine say horrible things about them on the House floor. And like any parent, if a service member's child can't get the care they need, they will be distracted from their mission. So ultimately, this ban will hurt our military readiness and likely lead service members to leave the military. This amendment isn't only bigoted, it's short-sighted and would hurt our national security. So I urge my colleagues to oppose this amendment, and I yield back.
I rise today in strong opposition to this amendment. If passed, this amendment would immediately prohibit TRICARE coverage of mental health counseling for transgender young people. Let me repeat that. This amendment would take away mental health care services for transgender kids of service members. That's what we're talking about. This amendment is intentionally discriminatory and result in higher rates of mental health issues and suicide for trans youth, kids who already experience higher rates of depression and anxiety and suicide compared to their peers. Republicans' all-out assault on healthcare right now has put these people into a state of constant fear and anxiety. Imagine that you're a service member, you're a parent, and you hear from a doctor that Congress has banned medically necessary care endorsed by every major medical association that would literally help save your child's life. All young people in this country should have access to the mental health care that they need. Full stop. Forcing service members to choose between being able to provide health care for their family, for their kids, or serving their country does not make our military stronger, does not make our country safer, and it will not, no matter what the member says, it will not make transgender people in this country disappear. I urge my colleagues to vote no.
I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Washington yields back. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentlewoman from South Carolina. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. Independent of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is
Mr. Chairman.
Agreed to.
Mr. Chairman,
The gentleman from Washington is recognized.
I request a recorded vote.
Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, further proceedings on this amendment offered by the gentlewoman from South Carolina will be postponed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was going to say some nice things about rising in support of a bipartisan NDAA that supports housing and healthcare and childcare, but I have sat here appalled at the language that we have heard on the House floor from the other side of the aisle. I stand in strong opposition to the person from North Carolina's amendment. I have sat listening to her violent, dangerous, and dehumanizing vendetta against parents, children, and trans people trying to live their lives and trying to defend our country. This is a pattern of the unhinged political war on trans people that this person from North Carolina, the Republican Party, and the president are waging. Denying the ability of out trans folks to serve in our military isn't enough for these people. The person from North Carolina is trying to erase the existence of trans people from forums, from hallways, from our military, and choosing violence.
At all times expired.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My amendment is straightforward. It would ensure the use of sex-specific spaces such as bathrooms, locker rooms, and changing rooms on military installations is based on biological sex, not ideology. Women in uniform deserve dignity, privacy, and absolute safety. Protecting women's spaces shouldn't be partisan, it should be common sense, but under the Biden administration, the federal government decided to abandon common sense that allowed men to enter women's spaces and violate their privacy and violate their dignity. Under President Trump, the government has restored basic biological truth. Men are men and women are women. I applaud the president for his commitment to protecting women, but a future administration could bring us right back to this insanity. The Biden administration sacrificed the dignity and safety of women to appease radical gender lunatic ideology. Our women in uniform shouldn't be forced to suffer indignities to appease the insane policies of the other side of the aisle, all the Democrats who support this nonsense. Allowing delusional men to use women's restrooms, locker rooms, changing rooms is an affront to women, and it's reckless. And our daughters are growing up with something we never had to distinguish when our generation was growing up. We're putting our daughters in imminent danger, in harm's way, and this has to stop. Women shouldn't be forced to share their private spaces with men, and this amendment says we're going back to reality. Privacy and safety matters, dignity matters, women matter, and I encourage my colleagues to protect all women. And I urge all members to support this amendment. I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlewoman from South Carolina reserves. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from California seek to be recognized?
Mr. Chairman, I rise to claim the time in opposition to the amendment.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield to myself such time as I may consume. Trans people, including trans service members, deserve basic human dignity and common decency of safely using the restroom. But besides that, let's take the gentle lady's point at face value. She wants to protect women. Great, so do I. Bathroom bans do not protect women. The Williams Institute at the UCLA School of Law even did a study on it, and there is zero evidence that allowing trans people to use the correct bathroom increases the risk to others. In fact, it's actually opposite. We have seen that cis women are harassed when people try and enforce or decree bathroom bans. Earlier this year, at a Buffalo Wild Wings in Minnesota, a server followed a teenage girl into the women's restroom and demanded she prove she was a girl. When the server didn't believe her, she unzipped her hoodie to show she had breasts. That is the actual reality of bathroom bans and even the idea of bathroom bans: harassment, discrimination, and body exams. We don't need service members acting like vigilantes to enforce this policy, either by surveillance, profiling, or physical inspections. Our service women go through enough. We shouldn't be inviting even more harassment. And we don't need this amendment opening up the Pentagon and the entire US government to a massive lawsuit. This isn't good policy. This doesn't protect women. This is based on misinformation, and I urge my colleagues to vote no. I reserve. I would just like to point out that I think it's very interesting that my colleague from South Carolina is so obsessed with the issue of trans people, using horrible slurs to talk about them, when many people in this body have received gender-affirming care. Filler is gender-affirming care. Boob jobs is gender-affirming care. Botox is gender-affirming care. Lots of my colleagues have received gender-affirming care, and let me be clear, I think everyone should have access to the gender-affirming care that they need, and I think we should respect everybody in this country. With that, I yield back.
The gentle.
Ridiculous. You are absolutely
Gentlelady
ridiculous.
Lady is not recognized. Order. The House will be in order. The gentlelady and the gentleman will suspend. The House will be in order. The gentlelady is not recognized. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentlewoman from South Carolina. The House will be in order.
Mr. Chair,
The question is on the amendment offered by the gentlewoman from South Carolina. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is,
vote is
the gentlelady from
recorded vote is
California is
requested.
recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I request her
Pursuant
words
to
be
Clause
taken.
6 of Rule 18, further proceedings on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from South Carolina will be postponed. Recognized. For what purpose does the gentlelady seek recognition?
I request her words be taken down.
The gentlelady was not recognized for that purpose. For debate. The House will be in order. There is no one that is recognized. The chair is prepared to move on and recognize the next amendment.